Do you like games? I like games. Do you like games too? I like games too. I like games too.
So now let's move on to maybe a game that you've actually heard of. And then I'll talk about the Retron 5 as well. Now the Retron 5, I'm trying to remember how much I got it for. I remember thinking it was really reasonably priced. I got it on Amazon. What was it, like 80 bucks, 150 bucks? Somewhere in that neighborhood. Overall, I've been happy with it. So this is basically what you see after the main kind of logo pops up, which just says like Hyperkin, you know, the guys that make this. Then it pops over to this, and if there's no cartridge in it, it just says no cart inserted. And this is your main menu here. And so you get the choice to play the game, which of course I'll do in a minute. I put in Final Fantasy. And then you got game menu settings. So let me just walk you through these, and you can kind of get an idea of you know, what this thing is. Now, first off, I should say that if you're used to using emulators, as I was for years, this has a number of features that you're going to find in an emulator. But you know, I did a study about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, something like that. I can't remember how long ago. It's on the YouTube channel. It's just a 3-part study that I released after kind of looking into it deeply as I could myself, and I came to the conclusion that that biblically, as believers, we really shouldn't be using emulators under almost all circumstances. There are very few circumstances in which we as believers should engage with that or can engage with it without sinning, I think. And I think that the Retron 5 is a great legal alternative, and it has some really nice features. But you know, is it as good as it could be? I don't think so. Let's look at the game menu here. So we got game-specific settings. So it has you can select patches here. I haven't experimented with this, but I believe, I'm almost positive, and you can look at the FAQ on the Hyperkin, the Retron 5 website, but I believe it does support like translation patches. So say if you have the Japanese cartridge for the NES, or the Famicom it would be, which this, with the Retron 5, will play Famicom and Super Famicom games, the Japanese versions of the Nintendo consoles. It absolutely will play cartridges that are imported directly from there, but like if you don't speak Japanese, you're like, well, what good is that to me? Well, this does appear to support patches, and that's the one thing I can't really confirm for sure, I think, that I'm going to talk about. But I mean, that's what I see going on here, and I'm almost sure that I remember reading that it does support translation patches that you can add to it. Which would mean that that you can, you know, play completely legally and morally these you know, imported these games that were only available in Japan for these old retro consoles. But I haven't used that feature, so I really can't talk about it a whole bunch. Let's go back here. The next one is cheats. Now, this is the way they kind of advertised it was that they were bringing the Game Genie cheats or whatever to the Retron 5, and if you look at this, the little symbol there, I mean, it's a genie's lamp, so it certainly evokes that, but this is not really a Game Genie, because the only cheats you can use are the ones that are preloaded, and it's dependent on Hyperkin to support their products and put cheats on there that you would want. Which is hard for them to anticipate, because in all the years that the Game Genie has been around, there are now so many different cheats that people have just stumbled upon and created and posted online that were never in the original Galoob, you know, manual for the for Game Genie. And now they do have a ton in here that wasn't in the original Galoob manual. I had that once upon a day, and it didn't have near this many cheats. There's so many cheats here. I mean, so they really have a lot of cheats, and for the games that they have cheats for, they in all but maybe one or two circumstances in my library, they have all the cheats the kinds of cheats that I would want, which is usually just going to be about giving me some kind of a handicap or making me invincible or something like that. Plus, tons more. But what's weird is, this one probably isn't a good example, but like sometimes these little notes that they have in here, you can't tell what these cheats actually do. Let me see if I can. Oh no, it takes me right there. Like this is maximum level 7 magic. Well, you can kind of guess what that means. And notice they've got like more than one. They've got like how many of these? Maximum level 4 magic, maximum level 4 magic, maximum. They got 4 of those. Why do they need 4? And you'll see these kind of repetition of codes, and what I discovered is that's because some of these codes they don't work, or they cause glitches or something like that. So I don't know what the reasoning is there, but it's not really like user friendly to find what you want all the time in terms of the cheats. And as I said, sometimes they don't have what you want in terms of the cheats. Now, I think I did read somebody, on some forum somewhere, because I did a Google search to see if somebody was working on this. I think somebody had figured out a way that you could put your own cheats in there, but it involves coding and stuff that if you're not comfortable with that, which I certainly am not, it's just going to involve a lot of work and a big learning curve and stuff like that. So. Okay, so like here's an example. Hit percentage character 1. Well, maybe that improves their hit percentage, I would think. Infinite magic uses, character 1. What does this mean? Intelligence, luck, strength, vitality. Does that mean it's at its maximum? Well, or does it just mean it's like twice as strong or something? Because I don't always want the maximum. Sometimes that overpowers things if I want to like just boost my guy a little bit. Absorb, character 4. What? Damage, character 4. Damage, maybe that increases damage. Absorb, these are probably stats in your yeah, but here you go. Intelligence, luck, strength. So weird, so a lot of these codes will lack descriptions that would really be useful. So, and then you've got other games, and I made a list. You've got other games that they don't even have cheats for. Some of which I'm like, how can you not have cheats for this game? This is a hugely popular game. How can you not feature cheats for this game as part of your product when you're saying, hey, we have built-in cheats through the Game Genie or something like that? There's no cheats for Wizards and Warriors, which is a bit of a disappointment for me. There's no cheats for Dragon Warrior, which that doesn't bother me. Role-playing games I don't need to cheat at, really. The Legend of Zelda. I suck enough at Legend of Zelda that I might like to have some cheats for that. No cheats available for that. Super Mario Brothers 2. Oh wait, they do have cheats for Super Mario Brothers 2, but none that will make you invincible. The cheats for Super Mario Brothers 2 are very limited. No cheats for Super Mario Brothers 3. I'm just thinking to myself, come on, these are like cornerstone games. How can you not have cheats for these games? And they have updated the cheats that are available for these systems a few times, but I not very frequently. The last one was back in March, maybe. So it would just be nice if what they would really do is focus on making a software update that would allow users to go to work in putting their own cheats in. I don't know why in the world they wouldn't make this so that you could put your own cheats in. If that's even remotely possible, I don't know why that's not a feature on this. So, Death and Return of Superman, which I'll play later tonight, but I don't really need cheats for that. There's some cheats built into that game already that you can use and access. The Game Boy version of Tetris, and those are the games that I have that it doesn't have cheats for. So, and you don't really know what my library is, so I mean that doesn't maybe tell you a whole lot, but certainly of those Super Mario Brothers games, they ought to have cheats for respectable cheats for Super Mario Brothers 2. They had like maybe less than a dozen different cheats, none of which helped you actually make your way through the game. So if you're like me, or if you're like my boys and they're like me, they get frustrated, and I'd love for them to just be able to explore this world and not worry so much about dying, and so it would be nice for kids and for terrible players like me to have better cheats. Considerable thumbs down. Well, I don't want to say thumbs down in the cheats department, because they do get a number of things right, but it's disappointing. It's not what I think it should have been. Okay, so copy save to Retron. This is this allows you to take a game that has like a saving functionality in it, you know, like a little backup battery, like most role-playing games on the NES had, and save that copy that's on the cartridge onto the Retron. And that's really nice if you think that your battery's going to start dying, but you've got a save on there that you want to, you know, import to the Retron. Of course, you can just as easily do it by using the save state feature, which allows you to save at any time during the game. As long as you just load up your game and can access that save, you're good to go. And this one's kind of interesting too. This allows you to copy your save to the cart. So if you have a save that's, you know, that's part of the official game save system for that cartridge on your Retron 5, then you can, you know, download it onto your cartridge, onto the place where games are supposed to be saved. But most of the time, I think you're not going to be using that feature. Most of the time, you're just going to be using the save state feature that's built in that most emulators, if not all of them, have. So anyway, let's back out of this. That's the game menu. Now let's go to settings here. Now this is the image filters that you have available to you, which allow you to kind of like smooth out and enhance the jaggies on graphics of retro games, which I think is a really cool feature. Now I remember, well, I'll show that in practice, and in fact, let's just dig into Final Fantasy just for a minute here. All right, so this is what the graphics look like unfiltered on the NES. Now, I remember somebody saying, like, online, you know, like if you... Or no, yeah, somebody that was doing a review of the Retron said that, like, purists might, you know, like, say, oh, don't use any of those graphics filters. And I thought about that. I was like, purists? Really? Because when you're watching this on today's high-def TVs, these jaggies show up like they just didn't on those old, you know, vacuum tube or whatever the crap, you know, TVs. They're just so much more pronounced. So I think actually by using some of these graphics filters, you can get it smoothed out just enough so that it looks like you kind of remember it looking, or maybe like your eyes actually experienced it. And then you can go a step beyond that, and I think even go into the realm where it's like this is probably what the creators intended, what the artistic design was. So you've just seen the regular now with those. Look particularly at the bad guys. Okay, so you've got these bad guys here. They're imps. Okay. Now I'll put a graphics, just a little filter on this. Let's see. I think this is the one. I can't remember which. Well, I'll just use the first one that's available here. Okay, so return to game. Look at that. I mean, they totally get smoothed out. Their daggers get smoothed out, and suddenly I'm like seeing these guys in a new way. Their daggers look like daggers, and their faces, they look, you know, you can see the definition of their hollow eyes and their mouths and stuff. You just see the shape of it more. It looks a little bit more hand-drawn, you know? And so I can't help but wonder, is this what the game makers actually intended, you know, for this to look like? And I wouldn't be surprised if they would say, yeah, actually, that's what we would have drawn if we would have had the, you know, the graphical fidelity to do that. But going back to this menu, of course, you can save your states. You know, you have up to 10 slots, save slots for each game, and you can save at any time, which is awesome for these old JRPGs where you only have these little save points. And I understand strategically why they would want to limit you in that way, but in terms of my schedule, I'm like, I don't have time to be hunting down the next save point. I know that I should only be able to rest and use my tent at a save point. I get that, you know, for the balance of the game. But let me just save my game and end it whenever I want because my wife wants me to do something or whatever. You know, I've got this thing to go to, you know, who knows. You do have this option of turning scan lines on and off. I guess that's for purists, you know. So this is the scan lines on now, which you probably won't even be able to tell with the fidelity of the image that you're getting through the stream. But that's to kind of simulate what the old TVs look like. You can take a screenshot, you can adjust your volume. And I'm going to return to the main menu, though, and get back to settings here. We were leaving off with so we talked about image filter, scan lines, aspect ratio. I mean, you can mess with that if you want to like stretch or zoom, you know, the game's image. I've never really felt I need to do that. Display overscan. I can't remember what that does. Force original resolution. Screen refresh rate. These are all kind of technical things I haven't really gotten into. Screen size. I did play around with the audio a little bit, and it has this nice sound enhancement feature that just kind of, I think, maybe separates the signal a little bit, so that if you're playing it through a home theater, you can hear those nice trebles, and you can hear those woofy basses even in these old chiptune type things. It's really nice, And so when I'm playing this without headphones on, or even with the headphones on, I could really get some nice doom doom, very basic kind of bass line stuff coming through my subwoofer, which is really nice. You can do a bass and treble boost. I really didn't find that to be useful, It felt like, it felt like it was adding something to the original game that wasn't intended, whereas the sound enhancement feature is nice and subtle, and I feel like it's giving me the best possible experience that the original creators of the game intended. So and that's just the volume, and then you can do all kinds of button mapping. This plays... it plays NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, Sega Master System if you have like this kind of adapter thing. It plays Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, Game Boy Advance games. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You can look it up for yourself to see all that it's compatible with. But for all those systems that have different controllers, it has physical ports, so you can use those physical controllers. Now, you can use the controller that came with it, which is this clunky thing that they designed, and it's maybe, I guess it's not that big of a deal to hold it the way that it is, but the buttons, it just, I can't describe it, it just, it's weird and clicky. Oh, I just did something. But it all the buttons have these weird kind of like clicking noises, and it feels a little lightweight and breakable, and there's something about the clicking when I push those buttons that I don't like. And a lot of people that review this will say that they don't like the controller. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I was like, I won't care. But then when I got it and I started using it, I was like, I really don't like this. Also, the button setup, they've got the start and select button way up here. So I mean, if you're down here and you want to like start your game, some games have like they use these for more than just pausing and starting they'll use it for bringing up a menu or using a special ability or something. And when it's way the crap up there, and you're used to being down here, and all of a sudden you got to jump your thumb up there, that's a bit of a leap, So what you may find is that just using a Super NES controller for all the games that you play is going to be your preferred method of playing. And luckily, you can go in and you can use, with the settings here for these controllers, you can use a Super NES. You can use whatever controller you want for whatever type of game you're playing. So I can use this to play Sega Genesis games, or Nintendo games, or Game Boy games, or Game Boy Advance games, or whatever. And you can map all the buttons. As long as it has enough buttons to do what the original controller for that console did, then you're good to go. And so I just use a Super NES controller for whatever I'm playing on the Retron 5 right now. Let's see, what else? Then they got some kind of like these, just kind of user preferences type settings. So I think that's about it as far as like what I wanted to talk about for the Retron 5. It's really nice. It's nice to be able to play these games and for them to look as clean as they do, and to have the ability. I really like that feature of enhancing the graphics. All in all, I'm really happy with my purchase. And I'm not optimistic. I would say that that they're going to fix the issues that I have with, say, like the Game Genie stuff. But I'm at least hopeful, maybe. Like, after all, when I first got it, there were no cheats for Game Boy Advance games, and they released an update, a few months ago that I just updated it with, and now there's great cheats for all of my Game Boy Advance games. So I'm hopeful, but not necessarily optimistic. So was it worth a purchase? Absolutely, for me. And that's all I have to say about that.
ChristianGeekCentral.com